Good day. My name is Mike Flores. I'm fortunate to serve as the Chancellor for the Alamo Colleges District, and I want to thank you for joining us at a seat at the table. As you know, or perhaps you're new and watching this segment, we cover a variety of topics during a seat at the table that talk about and cover special topics that align with who we are at the Alamo Colleges District, related to both our mission and our vision and how we serve and support our students. We're excited to continue our partnership also with Texas Public Radio, and after each episode, we encourage you to stay tuned with a special segment called Take Two with TPR, and that's an in-depth interview led by TPR education reporter Camille Phillips. Throughout these discussions, we also encourage you as viewers to engage with us on social media by leaving your questions or feedback in the comments so we can ensure that we respond back to you or perhaps address them simultaneously. Today, we're going to discuss something I think that is particularly critical to our students and many of those in the larger community, which is financial literacy. For many of our students and among college students in general, we know that learning how to understand and effectively manage finances is not only a key to success in college, but a key to success overall in life. I want to offer a couple of proof points that are related to findings that the Trellis Company, based here in Texas, a student financial wellness survey that they offered. In this survey in 2020, they found that students in community colleges in particular, 68% of students worry about having enough money to pay for school. 66% of students say that they would use financial support services offered by their college, which we'll discuss during this segment. And 72% of students are less than confident that they will be able to pay off any debt that they accumulate while they are in college. The financial literacy programs that are offered at each of our colleges are housed within what we call our student advocacy centers and are meant to promote and support responsible and healthy financial behaviors and decisions. And we want our students at the Alamo Colleges District to graduate and cross the finish line with our institutions with the confidence and knowledge to succeed in life. And we know that financial literacy is a key component of that. So that's what we're going to talk about during this segment. The resources that we offer, how you can contribute or how they contribute to our students' success. We also want to welcome one of our community partners during this segment, which is the Trellis Company. And we're fortunate to be joined by one of their key team members at Trellis. And so we're going to talk with Dr. Marisol Garza, who serves as an institutional consultant to the Trellis Company. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Garza.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
And Trellis, for those who don't know, is, and I have here, is a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to helping people leverage the power of post-secondary education and learning to improve their quality of life. And for us at the Alamo Colleges District, all of the 5 colleges partner with the Trellis Company to provide support to contact students. And in this case, I think to look at resources and research like the study that I mentioned earlier. And of course, I want to thank Dr. Sprague for joining us again at the seat at the table. And Dr. Sprague, as many of you know, is our board chair and has 28 years of service on the Board of Trustees. So thank you for being here, Dr. Sprague. I'm going to begin actually with you, Dr. Sprague, in today's question. So we're going to talk about financial literacy, as I mentioned, but I mentioned also student advocacy services. So Dr. Sprague, I know that you have many things that you've championed during your tenure on the Board of Trustees and in particular as chairman, but I wanted to ask about why do you think that we would need these wraparound services on our college campuses?
Well, I think that the need was always evident here. It may have become particularly acute during the pandemic, but we had come to this point well before the pandemic started. We saw people that when we started asking the right questions of why are you not persisting, you inquired about coming to college, what is the barrier that's keeping you from coming here? Why are you feeling the need to drop out? And behind all that is money, basically. Money in the form of, I need to spend my money to eat. I need spend my money to clothe. I need spend my money on housing. And, the costs of college become, the fourth on the list for those people. We have a lot of financial support for that aspect of their lives, but we don't have it for the wraparound services. So we have developed a very elaborate form of wraparound services for all those areas, and so we have things to help out with food insecurity, clothing problems, and even housing problems. But part of that is housed in a mystery of, I want to go to college. How do I manage my financial resources? Maybe I can get some help from our wraparound services, but how do I manage the whole thing? They have to find a new segment in their budget to go to college. And I want to get some Pell Grant. People are telling me I can get a lot of financial loans and things like that. Should I do that? So the financial literacy is absolutely essential for the individual, for their success. It makes a huge impact on our overall student body in terms of their getting through their programs in an efficient manner, gives them the incentive is things like what's taught in the Trellis program. I know is that how do you make sure that you have Pell Grant availability when you decide to transfer on to a university? If you spend all your Pell Grant money on too many courses, which we're streamlined because of our advisors, but if you spend too much on your Pell Grant, you may not have any Pell Grant left or only have a semester left when you get to the university. So it's such a key element for personal success and career success in terms of your future plans in university or workforce or in your daily living, managing your family in the future.
So thank you, Dr. Sprague. And I think as you mentioned and articulated, just the journey that the Alamo Colleges has been on, in particular with the vision from the trustees, right? Being able for each of our students to connect with someone outside the classroom, which is their academic advisor, then having those conversations about what they would like to do professionally. So they look at their pathway and they spend the time taking only the courses that they need, because we know that time is the enemy of degree completion. And then the other part, which is then looking at being able to address all of the competing demands on our students' pocketbook. So paying for, as you mentioned, or being able to provide for both shelter and food, and then all of the other costs related to life. So Dr. Gutsa, Dr. Sprague has kind of set it up for both of us to be able then to talk about. And I wanted to ask you one of the questions, Dr. Gutsa. So you're a partner with us at the Alamo Colleges District with Palo Alto College, where we are here today. Trellis also partners with all 5 of the colleges. Right. Can you tell us a little bit about Trellis and about the services that are provided?
Sure. So in your introduction, you kind of gave the big picture of what Trellis does. So I won't go over that again, but what I will highlight is how our particular partnership is realized, which is through Project Success. And that is a grant-funded partnership through the Department of Ed, where we provide no-cost wraparound support for you to support your students. So part of what we do there is we can offer research, we offer outreach, and we also offer education and financial coaching for all of the students, all free of charge to the college and all free of charge to the students. So the financial wellness survey that we administer, Alamo has invested in participating in that survey every year. And I think it's critical because it provides you with key insights as to what students' lived experiences are. Are they suffering with housing? If so, to what degree? What basic needs and securities do they have? I think Alamo has been very adept at responding with the advocacy centers, which I think is fantastic. And then what we help with is communicate to students that those resources are available. So we do text campaigns and call campaigns, letting students know. We encourage them to apply for financial aid to get that FAFSA submitted. We encourage them to apply for emergency aid if it's something that they need. We send periodic nudges to keep students engaged and let them know that somebody is out there to support them. And then we also facilitate financial literacy sessions in the form of webinars. We did 8 in the fall. We've done 9 this semester, and they run the gambit from savings to just building a budget, managing credit, understanding how, when you get a job, what do those forms mean to sign a W-2? How do you negotiate salary, and what does that mean? But also, sometimes, no matter to what extent we can offer students that financial literacy education, sometimes the money's just not there. Sometimes those ends just don't meet. So we try to make sure that we are partnering with you to tell students that they do have support. And we've also done additional research on an ad hoc basis for NLC, for example. We're doing a transportation survey to understand what students' needs are around transportation. For PAC, we're doing a survey on how students are utilizing the Share Center to see how we can improve that there. So our services are really designed to help you do more. And I like to say, I think we've done a good job of that. And I'm so happy to be here because I think that Alamo has done an outstanding job of utilizing those services.
I think one of the important things is just that alignment, as Dr. Sprague introduced, right? And looking at the student's journey and then being able to meet them where they are. And you had mentioned, so those ends oftentimes may not meet.
Right.
So how do we get them to meet? You mentioned that you've done close to 20, right, financial literacy workshops, either last fall or
Right.
kind of as we wrap up this spring semester. What are some of the things that our students are saying or asking about?
You know, sometimes it's really the most basic concept of what is a budget. Sometimes it's something as simple as just what is a budget? What is a spending plan? One of the things that the financial wellness survey talks about is that students don't often have $500 if they confront an emergency.
Right.
And students want to know, well, how do I do that? So we talk about different ways to save, breaking kind of old rules of you have to save 10%. You save what you can. And it's developing a different mindset. It's developing a practice. So students really want to know that. They also want to know, what resources are available in addition to financial aid? What's out there? And how do I get those resources? Something that we also talk about with students, and we talk about this with colleges as well, is that it's critical to normalize the use of those services. If they're going to go to a food pantry or a clothing closet, it's normalizing that use of services for students where everybody needs support. There's no shame in it. And students want to know that it's okay to accept a helping hand every now and then.
I think that's a valuable point. So normalizing the operations. I know at San Antonio College at their advocacy center, right, they provide what are called grab and go services.
Right.
So a student can walk in the door, be able to get a snack or perhaps a packaged sandwich and some water, and then be able to exit on their way to their next class.
Right.
Oftentimes, some of the things that we think may be relatively straightforward may actually appear complex. And it's just having that lived experience, right?
Correct.
Moving from somebody who is just going through it to somebody perhaps who's able to lend some assistance in doing that.
Absolutely.
Dr. Sprague, I want to come back. You You mentioned, that the difference in services and what that looks like, and why do you think both yourself and your fellow trustees, got a hold of this and said this is critical to who we are and to our students?
I think that came from a lot of our trustees. We hear from the people that who elected us, and they have students in school, or they themselves are struggling to come in. You talk about your opportunities for us, but it doesn't seem like everybody has the same opportunity.
Yes,
right? And so this is a way of filling that gap where everybody has the opportunity. All of our presidents and our chancellor have focused particularly on the poverty that we face in San Antonio. And so this is a key element of addressing poverty by enabling people to get into a position to become self-sufficient and earn a respectful income, support their family. But these services are critical in closing that gap so that they can reach that goal of independence,
Yes, sir.
financial independence.
Yeah, I think that is the most important thing. Is we know that students come to us, and many of them make great sacrifices, right, to be able just to enroll and begin their first semester. But they're here at any one of our colleges or our regional centers because they see the value or the return on investment that the credential, the degree is going to have. You mentioned, Dr. Getza, one of the things is being able to normalize the services that we provide. I think that was our goal over the past 2 years with COVID in particular, is being able to normalize college experience, being able to normalize just us turning on the lights every day, or turning on the laptop, right, so we could be able to connect virtually. What do you think are some of the trends that you see, or conversations that you're having with students, or that you see within your field related to financial literacy and financial awareness?
So in addition to, like I said, just the basics of understanding, what a budget is, it's also understanding costs associated with education. And many, someone who you'll hear from today, Nicole, thinking about the journey next. When they decide to transfer, they're going to a university. That's a very different cost that they're undertaking. So how do they move from the type of support that they have here and the low cost that they experience at a community college to now navigating that at a university? So some of our, we have financial coaches that help students with that can sit down and help students look at different costs at universities and weigh the options and understand more about how to look at what a financial aid package can do when you actually look at net cost. So really understanding what is a student going to have to spend out of pocket when they go to school. That's something that we hear a lot from students, that they don't understand the kind of hidden expenses of when you're thinking about, okay, now you're trying to drive to an entirely different location. You're spending more on gas. You're having to figure out how to get there. So it's taking all that and really planning their next steps.
Well, good. Well, we have a question that came in through the chat, and it's for you, Dr. Getza. What advice do you have for students saving for college, either when they're with us, right, or as you mentioned, like Nicole, who's planning to transfer? What does that look like? How can they save?
First of all, to be realistic with your expenses, sit down and create a budget. And if you don't really know how to do that, utilize the services available to you here at Alamo, either through the financial literacy office or the Trellis services that are available, and map it out. Look at your spending and think about what realistically you can set aside for college. We have a lot of different creative ways that our coaches talk about spend down plans. If you can cut back here and cut back there, to really look at something that's realistic for you. It's difficult to give advice because everybody's experience is so different. But that would be my advice, is to really sit down and think through what your financial picture looks like and use the support available to you to do that.
Well, great. I think that's very important. I think you mentioned being able to ensure that they are on track and take the courses with us so that they then, right, are able to make that successful transition to the university. That's actually was early on, Dr. Sprague and the trustees working with Alamo College's leadership to ensure that students would graduate on time, would preserve their Pell eligibility. So the average was over 90 hours about,
Yes, right.
6-7 years ago. Yeah, and now the average student graduates. Those that are going to cross the stage in the coming weeks will graduate with just over, on average, 60 hours. So we're saving that Pell eligibility for students. I do, so they're giving me the cue that we're going to wrap up. So I do want to thank you for joining us this afternoon for another episode of A Seat at the Table. I want to thank our special guest, Dr. Marisol Garza from Trellis Company, and of course, Chairman Dr. Gene Sprague for being with us this afternoon. It's been a full day for him. And then I also want to encourage you to learn more about the services that we provide at the Alamo Colleges in terms of financial literacy. You can go to alamo.edu /managing my money. And if you want to learn more about our partners at the Trellis Company, like Dr. Gatsa, you can go to Trellis, and that's TRELLIS company.org to learn more about Trellis. So please stay tuned. And we have education reporter Camille Phillips, who will be talking with one of our students, Palo Alto College student and SGA executive officer, Nicole, who's going to be with us and talk about her journey receiving financial resources and support from Palo Alto College.
Good afternoon and welcome to Take Two with TPR in partnership with the Alamo Colleges District. I'm Camille Phillips, the education reporter at Texas Public Radio. I'm here with Chancellor Mike Flores and Palo Alto College student Nicole Hu. There we go. And today we're talking about financial literacy. We just listened to the first segment of A Seat at the Table where they were talking with Marisol Garza of the Trellis Company, and they've got a really kind of unique partnership with the Alamo Colleges District to really help in several ways with financial literacy and just support in general, right, Dr. Flores?
Yes.
And Nicole, you are taking a financial literacy course this week, is that correct? Or you just did, or tell me about that.
I already have in the spring, and it's helped me quite a bit actually, even as a small business owner for myself, but also as a non-traditional college student too.
Okay. I want to hear more about that in just a second. Dr. Flores, first, I just wanted to ask, can you kind of talk about like, what's the difference between financial aid and financial literacy? I can imagine like a student just saying, why don't I just go to the financial aid office? Why do I need this financial literacy thing?
I would say that I think financial literacy is something you're going to use your entire life, right? So in the earlier segment, Dr. Gatsa from Trellis Company had talked about building a budget. So even just for us to be able to list our budget, what are some of the expenses we have on a regular basis? And then to look at then what is the revenue, or what do we have? If it's our paycheck, or if it's other forms of assistance, how much is that? So I would say that would be, and then how do we best utilize that, right? And I would say that would be financial literacy, a simple version. And then the other part would be financial aid, would be one form of support that we provide while a student is enrolled with us. The other would be, we know that there are other forms of support, right? So it could be a part-time, for most of our students, close to full-time job. It could be additional support that they receive, perhaps scholarship aid. All of those things. So I think that it is critical, financial literacy, which is building the budget and having kind of that wherewithal to be able to make ends meet and to be successful for yourself and your family and others. And then financial aid would be kind of the forms of support that can help pay some of those bills while you're enrolled.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Nicole, can you tell us some things that you learned in your financial literacy class?
Well, definitely creating a budget. I already have a budget for myself, and I have like a spreadsheet. As a small business owner, I did have to learn that aspect. So I do all my own taxes and save my receipts and things of that nature. So I learned that not only for my small business, but also for my family. And of course, I always have to have like a big miscellaneous, because with children, anything comes up. And it has really helped me understand the difference between having the cost and forming the cost.
I don't know what that means. Can you tell me the difference?
Because you have money on hand, which is your savings, and then you have money you don't have, which you have to learn to save. And for me, I have to differentiate as far as business, parent, school, things like that. So with these courses that I have taken as far as financial literacy, I had to learn to understand how to make sure to keep those separate. And I'm not pulling from, the wrong stack or, like budget, basically. So that it's really taught me to kind of go into depth.
Okay, so keep money for business in the business pile, keep money for
Yes.
family in the business family pile. Okay, that
Yes,
makes
that's
sense.
really important, especially for school. It's really important.
And you're a cosmetologist, is that right?
I am.
So that's your small business.
Yes,
You kind
it
of have
is.
to run your chair, your
Yes,
your
and
office.
that goes. It's a lot as far as product. Product. Anything as far as like cleaning supplies, uniforms, gas, it's like a big. People don't really understand sometimes like everything that kind of goes into it. Of course, more time. But just basically, yes, keeping it separate. Same thing with at home. Everything has to be like organized. And as a non-traditional student, I know that I am, of course, not perfect. I had to still learn too. And I had to teach myself that I have to make certain sacrifices to, spend down and to learn to put things aside and utilize as far as like financial aid. And I've actually utilized many services actually on campus.
Yeah. Can you give us an example of what other kinds of financial support you've been able to learn about or use while you're here at Palo Alto?
Definitely. I have always been one of pride, right? I was raised with, a single mother. So I was always one to be strong, never asked for handouts. And coming to school, I had to really learn to let that go. Because if I wanted to succeed, I needed help. And I learned that. So I receive emails consistently, and I always check my emails because if there's anything that could help me succeed, I'm gonna use it. And I've learned, I've used as far as like the CARES Act, and I've applied for that. I also have helped with Section 8. And that one was a hard one for me, only because I had never received Section 8 in my life. And I was always just responsible. And I knew, I always thought that I could do it on my own and I didn't need help. But through the pandemic, I had to learn to let that go for sure. So I just took the chance, I took the risk, and it was like one of the best things that helped me to get through school, and I don't regret it at all. I definitely can tell people to just take that risk, to let go of the ego, let go of the pride, and know that your education is worth it.
Is that like help paying for rent, right?
That's
It's
help
like
paying
major
for
to being
rent.
able to be able to focus on
Yes,
school, right?
and it cut my rent down by half. Of course, it's not forever, and I know that, and it's okay. At least I know that it's for now, and it's going to help me get through it now. That's what matters to me. So I've had help with that. Food bank. Those were really the main things as far, especially like with the financial, as learning how to budget. It couldn't be more helpful for sure.
And all those resources, like to learn how to apply for Section 8 and all that was through the Share Center,
It was
the
through the
resource
Share Center.
for-
Yes, they helped me
Here in
every
Palo.
step of the way, sent me applications. I filled out the applications. If I had any questions, I definitely just reached out to them. I also utilize as far as like work study. Work study helps. Internship, I've done both. I'm actually doing an internship now, and it just helps to bring in extra money. I know I have my small business, but that's really just for the weekend because I had to take that risk and focus on school during the week and work weekends. So right now I'm doing the internship, and before I had the opportunity to work with student leadership, SLI at district. It was great as well too until I got the internship. So anything like that as far as financial help, it's definitely worth it. And they really do send out many emails and information. If not, you can find someone, then they will help you.
That's good. Dr. Flores, I was going to ask, kind of was touched on earlier, but in the first segment, but there's two different things that happen, right, in college. There's the needing to know how best to use your money, but there's also just, especially when you're going to school and like Nicole, she's only able to work on the weekends right now. So there's just less money coming in by the nature of spending time in school. You can't work as many hours. I guess you talked some about, we kind of alluded it too, but there's the ways that Alamo Colleges and Charles is helping with that aspect of things.
Right.
There's Pell Grants and financial aid that pay per tuition, right? But there's also just how do you pay for a living while you're in college?
Sure. So I think one of the important things is that, the Pell Grant, we talk now about inflation, right? So the Pell Grant has not generally kept a pace with the cost of living, right, over time. So it has increased over the past few years. But what we want to do is ensure that Nicole and her peers, right, that they're able to connect and partner with a professional that's going to assist them. Let's begin in understanding, where are you at this point in time? As Nicole mentioned, let's build a budget. You're going to access all of those services at student advocacy centers. Here at Palo Alto, it's called the Share Center. Our intent and the reason why our partnerships are so successful, whether that's with the Housing Authority or whether it's UT Health or the Food Bank, is because they realize that Nicole and her peers have a path, right, that she's delineated, and she is here at Palo Alto College because she wants to get that certification or degree for herself. She mentioned that this is temporary and that she will then be able to have that credential that's going to be able either to expand her business or to go into a new field. And so I think that's why both here at Palo Alto College and throughout the Alamo colleges, the advocacy centers have been very successful in being able to meet students where they are, to provide that extra assistance that may be needed so that they can finish the semester, they can get ready for the next semester, and then ultimately, like we will be doing in a couple of weeks, they can cross that stage, right, the finish line. Provide for themselves and for their families. And we know that life is challenging overall for any of us. We know it's particularly, it can be particularly challenging for our students because life is unpredictable. And they may be on path, but there could be an emergency room visit, right? There could be something else that happens. And so it's connecting with a caring professional that's going to partner with them to figure out a plan so that they can be able to continue.
Nicole, I wanted to ask, like, you said it's temporary. Your plan is to go to A&M San Antonio in the fall, right? What is that path for you? Where do you see yourself in a few years? Do you have do you want to still be a hairstylist? What do you want to do?
Okay.
And what do you think that will mean for you financially?
Okay, so yes, I definitely want to continue to be a hairstylist. I love what I do. I love talking with people, helping them pretty much be comfortable with themselves, finding themselves. But I'm taking the route as far as psychology. And I would really, really love to incorporate cosmetology into a form of counseling. And even if that doesn't work out, I know I want to help people as far as mental health and a form of counseling for sure. I always have to have a backup plan. So even if, the cosmetology counseling doesn't work out, I know that I'm going to go into some form of counseling because I want to help people. And I feel that with mental health, we struggle with a lot of things that we possibly can be ashamed of. Even with myself, I struggle with OCD, anxiety. It was kind of hard for me, even with something like this, but I have to learn to overcome those things. And I want to help others overcome that too, just like I overcame as far as asking for help. I want to help people overcome those issues as well, because it's not a forever thing. And that's one of my mottos is it's not forever. Nothing is forever. It's just for the moment. And even with financial literacy, I used another platform called the iGrad, and it helped me learn as far as Pell Grants and to learn how to check that. So even going on the FAFSA, it shows me where I'm at as far as how much of my Pell Grant that I've utilized. And I'm keeping track with that as well too. So that way I know that technically I'm going to be covered for like a year long or if 2 years long. And that way I can prepare myself. And going and transferring, I want to be able to help everybody understand those things mentally and emotionally as far as the psychology field.
Well, Nicole, best of luck to you and
Thank you.
your transfer. You've been listening to Take Two with TPR in partnership with the Alamo Colleges District. I'm Camille Phillips here with Chancellor Mike Flores and Palo Alto College student Nicole Hu. Thank you so much for listening and have a great afternoon.